Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the Music Career Show. Just in case you're new here, hello there. My name is Barry, and every week I dive into the secrets of building a successful career in music with amazing musicians and music professionals from every sector imaginable. My aim is to get you inspired with real life stories and learn from industry insiders so that you can make music work for you. So while you still have your device in your hand, would you ever mind subscribing, reviewing, and sharing the podcast far and wide to unlock your potential as a professional musician and help me share the love as far and wide as possible? And if you are perhaps a musician stuck in a 9 to 5 lifestyle, then don't miss out on my free music teacher roadmap. This is a step by step guide of the exact steps that I took to build my business and make music work for me. And you're going to find that in the description of this episode, or alternatively, you can head over to onelabmusic.com/roadmap. Now that we've all that out of the way, on this week's episode, we have a lovely lady all the way from the US of A. She describes herself as a child of the 60s whose father was a civil rights activist from the Deep South and whose professional accreditations include but are by no means limited to demoing with John Lennon's band, singing for Kid Creole, and repeatedly charting in the folk charts over there in the States. She's a lovely lady and her name is Brooksie Wells. Hello, Brooksie.
Hello, how are you? It's so nice to chat with you.
It's lovely to have you on, Brooksie. It's absolutely fantastic to be talking to you again. So, Brooksie, for people that may not have heard of you just yet, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay, I'm Brooksie Wells. I'm a singer-songwriter and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I was born here in Atlanta, but I spent most of my life up north in New York and Virginia, actually, where I had my early career. I was signed by, of all people, Bobby Darin back in the day and worked at Warner Chappell as a songwriter. Then was lucky enough to be part of the first album for Kid Creole and the Coconuts. For some of you Brits over there, remember that band? They were pretty popular over here in America, but much more popular over in England. And then I left the music business and became a children's musician because I had kids. And you can't nurse and rock at the same time real easily. So I ended up getting out of the music business, and I didn't really like the business part of it all that much. There's a lot we can talk about how rough it was in the old days for women. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I came back about 15 years ago. I was getting a divorce, and I said, and I don't mean this literally, so don't watch the comments. I could either kill myself, buy a new car, or make a record. So I decided to make a record, and I called in friends from the old days. I had Ricky Simpkins, who plays for Emmylou Harris. I had Larry Williams, who was Al Jarreau's arranger, and Julia McBrown, who works with Lisa McCormick. They all came down and they helped me make this kind of country record. Ended up getting nominated for an award, a Washington Area Music Award. And I said, well, guess I'm back in the business. But I didn't understand the business.
Mm-hmm.
The business had changed. The business had turned into streaming. It had turned away. Even then, CDs, I did make CDs, but now nobody has CDs in their car anymore. You can't hardly sell a CD. So I didn't know what to do. And also the genres had changed
Mm-hmm.
because in the old days, someone like Linda Ronstadt was considered like a folk rock artist. Now, there's folk Americana and there's pop, and I didn't really know where I fit. So I
Mm-hmm.
kept looking for help and I found it. And this wonderful woman, Carrie Estrin, who manages my radio career, I found her in Nashville and she helped me to adjust my direction musically so that I would fit into a genre, which was the folk genre.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, if you do certain things, you can get a top 10 record on the folk charts. And guess what? First time out, this is, I think, 2015. I had my first album with her. It was came in at number 10 on the folk charts.
Woo!
And then I know. And then I did another album and it came in at number 7. And then I did my most recent album, which is called Stops Time. I actually have it. This is it. And
Very good.
yeah, it was number 4. So I've had 3 top 10 albums in my 60s. So a trifecta. So that was very exciting.
Fantastic stuff. That's all excellent. It's funny you should say that when you came back to the industry after however many years you were away from it, that had totally changed. I feel like that, even though I speak about it on the podcast quite often, that I done sound engineering coming straight out of school. So I was like 17, 18, 19. I studied sound engineering. And within 6 months, I would say everything that I had learned, well, not everything, but pretty much the industry had moved on that quickly and that far that things that I had learned 6 months previous were already out of date. So I can imagine how much of a culture shock it must have been for you coming back in after however many years away. But yeah, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into all of that. But let's rewind a little bit. I always start by asking people after they've introduced themselves, where did music all start for you?
Well, I was 5 when I started playing piano, and I studied classical piano. So I studied and trained um, until I was in about the 6th grade, I guess, maybe 7th grade. Then
Okay.
I switched to guitar. My father brought me a guitar from Mexico, just up, and I started playing. And there was a place in Alexandria, Virginia, called the Folklore Center, and this friend of mine got me a guitar, gave me a Gibson J50, which is
Oh,
from
I know it
1960. Oh
very,
yeah,
very well.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, very cool guitar, but has a
Yeah.
skinny neck because it's got a real big body, but it's got a skinny
Yeah.
neck. And I
Yeah.
was I was 15 when I got it, and he said, "You need this more than me." I think he got it for like a bag of pot back in the 60s. This was I mean, it's the old days. I can just tell you what actually happened. So
Yeah.
I've been playing that guitar my whole life. And when my son was about 10, he goes, "Mom, when I'm 21, can I have that guitar?" And oh, of course, my son, because you do that with your kids. And he
Yeah.
held me to it. He held me to it. So he now has the Gibson, and I'm playing a couple other. I play a Martin. Not actually, not anymore. I'm playing a GS Mini now because it's a touring guitar for me. It's a
Yeah.
Taylor guitar. So
I
that's what
I
I
I
got.
had a GS Mini many, many moons ago. They were a lovely guitar. They're a lovely,
Yeah,
lovely
and it's
guitar.
color
Yeah.
wood. This one's color wood, so it's really got
Yeah.
a nice tone. I used it, recorded with it. It was pretty fun.
Lovely
So
stuff.
anyway, that's how I got started in music. Was I played classical piano, and I still teach classical piano to beginners. I'm not a great player, but I'm good at teaching little kids how to start playing piano. So that's what I
That's
do
great.
sometimes.
That's absolutely wonderful. And so you switched to guitar after playing piano for a while. Can you remember how you found that? Because me as a guitar player, primarily, I play a load of different instruments, but I'm a guitar player first and foremost. And you know yourself, if you can play a piano, if you can play a guitar, you can play a load of different instruments. But I'm a guitar player first and foremost. And for me, trying to play a piano, it's like it's backwards because your hands are doing the opposite things. On guitar, you're doing most of the melody on your left hand, whereas in piano, it's total opposite. So I can never get my head around piano. Can you remember how you found it?
Well, it really wasn't a problem for me because it's two different things.
Mm,
Classically trained piano players, which is what I was when I was young. It's about reading the music, having your hands follow the reading. It's like learning to read.
yeah.
With guitar, I was taught, and I was not taught as a classical guitar player. I was taught some chords. I was taught, here's a G chord, here's a C chord. I did learn things like numbers, 1, 4, and
Mm.
5.
Yeah, yeah.
I also learned, like the circle of fifths and stuff like that. Although I really wasn't very well versed in that. So basically, I learned the chords and I learned how to finger pick. I am a finger picker. I am not a flat picker. I don't flat pick.
Okay.
I wish I did, but I don't. So I spent the summer of my 15th year in a basement in Concord, Massachusetts, playing a Travis pick for 3 months to learn how to do it, which is thumb, thumb, finger, thumb, finger. That's basically what I learned to play. And I just
Very good.
spent the summer in the basement learning how to do that. And I've been doing it ever since.
Fair play.
So that's how I did it.
Fair play. So you said this is something that I've always, and I'm sure a very quick Google search would tell me this, but I'd be as well asking you, what does the term classically trained mean, as opposed to
Well,
like
what
any other type of lessons?
Well, I think what it really means is learning how to read music. I
Okay.
mean, I think that would be the and not and note for note read music.
Mm.
Learn and plus learning a language that is for all the people who do it. For example, terms like legato,
Yeah.
staccato,
Yeah. Yeah.
piano forte. Those are the kinds of things that if you're playing guitar and somebody hands you a chord chart and it says C, G, F sharp minor, D, and that's
Yeah.
it, and you are improvising. I
Mm.
think it's the difference is one is a written piece, another is more improvisational, where you create more improvisationally. That's been, and I consider two very different skill sets,
Oh,
because
completely.
when I played classical, yeah, I can't sit down and write a chart note for note of the music that I play, that I create, that I write on guitar, or
Yeah, yeah,
I also write on piano. It's very different. I just sort of come up with stuff, and I'll hire somebody to write write
yeah,
it down
yeah,
note for note.
yeah,
I can't do it. It's two different things.
yeah.
So that would be my take on it. And I believe that jazz, I mean, jazz players also, when you read their charts, they're so hard, it's
Oh,
very complex work.
yeah.
And some people
I
can just play it without it,
yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
not one of those people.
No, I follow Rick Beato on YouTube, and it's like I teach music theory to an extent. Do you know what I mean? I teach music theory, and I try to
Uh-huh.
impart as much wisdom about music theory to my students as possible. But then when you go and watch something like Rick Beato, you feel about that big, and you feel stupid for not knowing that a C sharp can have a sharp because it's in Stairway to Heaven in a certain place. It makes no sense. And then he sits there and he kind of charts out things as if he was in a jazz band. And like you're saying, they have like added sharp 13s, and you're like,
Right.
grand, okay, perfect. I just do that. Do you know what I mean? I just play a G and I'm happy. But yeah, good
Well,
stuff.
you play a G and you add a sixth, because you're just doing a walk. And you
Yeah, yeah,
don't think about it, though, that you're adding a sixth or adding a 13th. You're just, oh, I'm walking down. You don't,
yeah,
it's some of it is a language issue. So
yeah.
if you're an improvisational band type musician, you're going to use, and I played in a lot of bluegrass with a lot of bluegrass players,
Uh-huh.
and they play in G position all the time and use a
Yeah,
capo.
yeah,
Now,
yeah.
yeah, a lot of musicians are like, "Oh, you're cheating," and I'm like, "Oh, no, I'm not. I sing in B
No,
flat, and I don't like to play in B flat. I like to play in G, so I just capo 3rd fret, and I'm good to go."
you're
And
good to
that,
go.
that works out for me.
Yeah.
So,
Why would you bother learning all the different positions when you can literally just use a capo? My bandmate is notorious for that. He knows how to play 4 chords, and that's him, and he just uses a capo. Yeah, and
yeah.
that's him. He's happy out. How you
Well,
calling
and
it
it
for this?
depends on what you're trying to do. Yeah, because and who you're working with.
Yeah.
Because, the other night I got to play with some really fine jazz musicians. Neil Starkey was playing bass, and it was incredible. They were backing me up. And but I don't have to tell them anything. They can just play. But some people are just really, really talented. And those are the top people. And God bless me, I got to play with some of them. It's been very exciting. I am a noted songwriter, not a
Right.
noted player.
Right.
you know,
And there's
I, I'm,
and
I'm
there's
a
a
good,
huge difference between that.
it's a different thing. It's a different set
Yeah.
of tools and a different set of stuff. I
Yeah.
would love to be as good a player as some of the players that I've had the honor to work with, but I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I would love to be half as good as half of the people that I've been honored to work with as well. And like you say, when you're working with someone that is infinitely better than you, and I don't mean that in the crass way that it sounds, but like you might as well call a spade a spade. When you're working with someone that is infinitely better than you, makes your job very very easy, very
It
very
does.
easy. Some of the easiest gigs I've ever done were with musicians that were much better than me. Haley Keenan is one of them. She actually works for my music school. She's a fiddle teacher and a fiddle player, and she used to be in a band called Talisk. Some of the easiest gigs I've ever done were with her playing fiddle. Dan O'Sullivan is another one that I used to gig with in America. Fantastic musician. So yeah, but cool, right? So you were playing away in school. You were learning piano. Then you switched to learning guitar, and you spent that summer, 3 months of the summer, learning how to. Was it Travis pick? Is that what you said? Travis pick with
Yeah, that's what it's called,
the
the
thing.
Travis pick.
And
Uh-huh.
then, so I know Bobby Darin came into the picture. Now, for anyone that doesn't know who Bobby Darin is, now I was kind of one of these. I knew the name Bobby Darin, but I wasn't entirely sure why. And Brooks, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but Bobby Darin, was he not the guy splish splash and taking a bat?
Yep. Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
So
And
for
also, Mac the Knife was one of his
Mac the
big
Knife,
hits.
great stuff. So
Yep,
for
Mac
anyone
the
for anyone
Knife.
out there like me that was just born too late, that's who we're talking about. When did he come on the go, Brooksy, and what happened?
Well, Bobby Darin was a big star in the late 50s, early 60s. He was part of the Rat Pack with Frank Sinatra and those guys. He was a bit younger. And he was like the younger brother of the Rat Pack.
Hmm.
And he was doing mostly like Vegas and that kind of, Copacabana, New York, stuff like that. But he wanted to be a folk singer. He loved Bob Dylan. He loved folk music. And so he did a cover of If I Were a Carpenter, which is a 1960s, folk song that was a big thing with Joan Baez and stuff. He loved that stuff. But he was kind of connected and, take that however you like. And so they wanted him, his management and everybody wanted him to stay in the uh, more the Vegas type playing, the big clubs, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he had a publishing company, and his publisher, that's who signed me, was his publishing company, that he wanted to have folk singers. And so I was 19 when I got signed. I went to Hofstra University on Long Island in New York, right outside the city. And I was 16 when I went to college. And I was just playing
All right.
guitar in my dorm, and some guy heard me. They used to have A&R people would go around and look for people. And they said, "You
Oh,
want to
wow.
make a record?" And I said, "Sure." Went downtown, um, you know, played a little demo thing. I brought some boys up from Virginia who'd played with me to do a demo or two. And then I got signed. And they did, but in those days, that's what I wanted to talk about. Women were not allowed to do anything. I mean, they picked my clothes. They picked like John Lennon's band, Elephant's Memory. I used them.
Hmm.
This is who you're using for your backup band for the demos. Okay. I acquiesced because I was young and, I didn't know. And my first adventure in the music business, I'm at the studio. There's two engineers, both with little gray ponytails pulled back. And the first words out of their mouth was, "Oh, your father got money?"
Mm.
And then, "Who's your boyfriend?" There was never a question of me having talent. It was, I had to, and I was very cute when I was young. So it was just, I must have been a cute girl that somebody was doing a favor for.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I couldn't have been talented. Oh my God. But, one thing led to another, and I ended up getting signed by Bobby Darin. And I did my debut at Gertie's Folk City, which is where Bob Dylan made his debut. And
Cool.
I got a backup band, and things were really going great. And Bobby Darin had the nerve to die. He was
How
36.
inconsiderate of him.
Yeah, he was 36. He had had rheumatic fever as a child, and his heart gave out, and he died.
Bless him. Yeah.
So nothing you could do. And in those days, without a mentor, women just, you were done. And
Yeah.
so I had a contract for 3 years, and I stayed. And that's when I did Kid Creole's album. We did that in the studio upstairs. We had an in-house recording studio at Chapel Music. In those days, that no one had a home studio. There was no such thing. Okay. It hadn't been
Yeah.
created yet.
Yeah.
So all of the big people in New York did demos. They did like Paul Schaefer from the David Letterman band, and Lionel Hampton, James Brown. I mean, anybody would come in and do a demo or fix things on their records, and you would meet everyone at Chapel because Chapel was the largest publisher in the world. So I got
Yeah.
to meet, for example, Alan J. Lerner. He wrote My Fair Lady. I got to
All
meet
right.
him and ask him what his favorite song was that he ever wrote. And he said, um, "On the Street Where You Live" from My Fair Lady, which was like, because I was a kid when all those things came out. It was so
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I was very lucky and surrounded by some of the best. I mean, the Brecker brothers would come and make demos there. I mean, everybody. And I thought all musicians were really good because there I am surrounded by the best musicians in the world and thinking, "Oh, this is the way it is."
Yeah.
And it was interesting. So anyway, I ended up doing the Kid Creole album, but it was really insane in New York. I was not really happy anymore. I had gotten a divorce. I was, there was a lot of alcohol and drugs back then. It was that period, the 70s. If you ever saw
Yeah.
that show Vinyl, which Mick Jagger produced, a lot of people went, "Oh, that's over the top." And all of us were calling each other going, "That's exactly what it was like," you
Yeah.
know? So it was pretty rough. So I ended up leaving New York and going back to Virginia where my parents were. My father was a Unitarian minister in Reston, Virginia. And I went home and, was pretty insane. And I ended up getting in a band because what else are you going to do? And
Just happens. Yeah.
we got in a band and ended up marrying my drummer and having two children. And we made an album over in Athens, Greece, when it went overseas, thinking, it's all going to be amazing. And of course, we ran out of money and came back. And my ex husband became an air traffic controller thank God, so someone could pay for the orthodonture. And I had 2 children, and I, decided to do children's music for many years. And I was in Montessori and, was an artist in residence at a Montessori school, worked with little guys for a long time.
Very
And,
cool.
but yeah, it was pretty cool. And by the way, I've been sober 35 years. So I also stopped drinking and drugging and all that stuff, which is why I'm this healthy at my age. I gave it
Woo.
up way
So was that
before I had my kids.
1978? No, that can't be right. 1988.
87, 87.
87, 87. So going on 36 years this year.
Yeah. Well,
Going on
yeah,
36,
35
yeah.
years in October. So
35 years
yeah,
now.
so
So,
it'll be
well,
36.
congratulations. That is no mean feat. So fair
Yeah.
play to you. Um, I know that you were talking an awful lot there about Chapel Warner. Was it Chapel Warner or just Chapel?
Mhm. At the time,
Um,
it was Chapel. It was Unisong Music was the division I was involved with, and it was Chapel. Warner and Chapel got together later, so at the time it was Chapel Music. So
okay,
it's now
grand. Yeah,
Warner.
no, I knew there was something ringing a bell in my head when you kind of mentioned Chapel Warner. I was like, I've definitely
Yeah,
heard that like being mentioned like about like Van Halen or something like that. But
yeah. Oh
so
yeah, they have everybody.
yeah,
They publish all the big bands and all the they had publishing for the Beatles, distribution. They had everybody, and it was very easy to get lost in a publisher that big. That's another thing that happened to me was without Bobby Darin to promote me, I was just a very small fish in an extremely big pond. And that
yeah,
I had a couple songs and movies and stuff writing with other people and that sort of thing, but I was not getting the help that I needed to be elevated to the level of a Stevie Nicks or a Linda Ronstadt, which is what you
yeah,
need. You need that backing back then, to promote your albums, to do your tours, to do all that stuff. Because all of your money came from album sales back then.
yeah,
It didn't
yeah,
come from touring. You toured to support the album, not the other way around. And today it's all touring and streaming's free, basically.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
very
yeah.
different industry.
And I can imagine that you wouldn't have been the only one then to fall through the cracks when you've got the likes of the Beatles on your roster or Van Halen or whoever else or these other huge mega stars.
Yeah, without question. I mean, there were lots of us super talented folk, and we were working. I mean, the thing is, we
Mm.
were working musicians, which is a great. I mean, that's hard enough.
Yeah,
Not
exactly.
everybody
Yeah.
is going to be at the top. So that's hard enough. But yeah, we were working musicians, and I've been a working musician since I was 19. Now, some of it's songwriting, some of it's performing out. Although I was not much of a touring artist, I did tour a little bit,
Mm.
but it was mostly recording. I did backgrounds on disco records. I was a disco singer.
That's brilliant. My only ever experience with disco was when Kiss did that album Dynasty or Dynasty. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Uh-huh.
But that's just class. But I know that you were a writer for Chapel Music at one stage. What did that entail?
Well, that was why I was that's what my, contract was. That they're a publishing company. They hired me as a songwriter. And so what I was there to do was write songs for myself, for my own, music, but also to write songs for other people and to work with other
Ah,
artists to, you know, get songs published. I wrote with this duo, these 2 classical musicians, as a matter of fact, Mark and Alec Piskinoff. We want to write pop music, and so I wrote the lyrics for a song called "It's the Night Again" for a movie with some, and Samantha Sang covered it anyway, and that got in a movie, and I made a bunch of money on that, which was a lot of fun to make a little bit of money,
yeah.
for a song that I had in a movie, and so that was kind of learning. I wrote with some various. Oh, Larry Russell, he just sent me some songs I wrote back in a long time ago. He played for Billy Joel. He was in Billy Joel's band, and we've
Ah,
written together. So wrote with a bunch of different people. And Jerry Holland, who he ended up having a Song of the Year in Nashville many years later for John Michael Montgomery, and he and I wrote together. Freddie Caruso. So, and we had a band, and we'd play in the Village, and that was a lot of fun. We'd play at these clubs, at the Vanguard, places like that,
yeah.
where you would just go and get to open for people or play. And it was my 20s were a lot of fun, because
Sounds
I
it.
was in New York City. I lived in the West Village. We were all mad and crazy. And just it was insane. So it was fun.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. You've touched on on a good point there, which is, and this might actually sort of be helpful. I know that I'm really interested to know about this, and I think it might be helpful for other people listening out there. So when I had said about you were a writer for Chapel Music, I didn't realize that you were speaking about getting signed to Chapel and all that, and that was basically the sort of the details of you getting signed. Am I right in saying that?
Well, no, I was they heard me play.
Yeah,
They heard my songs. I had I came in, I did some demos, and
yeah,
then the Bobby Darin's publisher, this guy, Mr. Burton, was in charge of all the publishing for Bobby, and
hmm,
he played it for Bobby and he said, sign her. So they signed me. It was a 3-year contract to
hmm,
as a songwriter, basically.
Grant,
And but
yeah,
they were also promoting my career as a singer. So it was like at the time it was that they wanted me to write songs and perform. So, they brought in a publicist and they brought in all this, stuff. We got photographs done and they hired a backup band and I have pictures on this album here. There's a photo shoot on the front that was done back then when they were getting ready to, put me on an album cover and stuff. So this album is called Stops Time. The man with the camera stops time. So my friend
yeah.
David Goodman, who's still a wonderful photographer and has a new book out about marijuana as of all things. But anyway, he did those photos. So that's the kind of thing they were doing for me at the time.
Yeah.
And so when Bobby died, basically all that stopped.
Okay, grand. Yeah, no, that was the point that I was wanting to touch on then, because then that sort of, and I think I kind of know the answer to it, but then so if they're sort of essentially, for lack of a better term, they're implying you as a songwriter, meaning that if you write songs for yourself, the songs don't necessarily belong to you. If you write songs for
Correct.
if you write a song, you could perform it, or Stevie Nicks could perform it, or Paul McCartney could perform it, but none of you own the song. It's the publishing company that owns the song. You've
Well,
just written it on
you
their
hold the
behalf.
writer's rights and the publisher. No, no, no. You hold the writer's rights and the publisher owns the publishing. It's split.
Oh, okay.
It's still split like that today. The publisher owns
Right.
the publishing, the writers own the writers' rights. That's because a lot of people did a lot of work to keep it from in the 50s. It used to be they would buy the songs outright and would just own them. Yes, that was true in the 50s and early 60s, but that changed. And so you have publishing rights and writers' rights 100%. And it's weird how the numbers go and everything, but
Yeah.
you retain writers' rights, and then the publisher gets the publishing rights. Now you can make a deal and give away some of the publishing, keep some of the publishing. It depends on the situation. If you're working with a more famous writer or a more famous artist, they're probably going to get a bigger piece. And so
Mm.
that's just the way that works. And what I always talk about, it always makes me laugh, um, cutting up the invisible pie.
Mm.
Everybody's always trying to cut up a pie that doesn't exist. Okay. If you
Yeah.
haven't got, you're writing a song and 99% of the songs don't get covered, don't get released. Some do, but and now with the internet, you can put it out yourself. Yes, which is great, whole difference. But back in the day,
Yeah.
most songs didn't make it. And so you're all worried about your publishing and worried about who's going to steal it and all this stuff. And I'm like, I wish I wrote a song that was big enough that somebody wanted to
Oh.
steal it. You know, wouldn't that be
Yeah.
great? I wish I could, I want someone to steal my song. That'd be awesome. Steal my
Yeah.
song, so I would get some sort of notoriety. But
Yeah.
it's mostly just do the work, do the art, and don't expect to make any money. I mean, that's just the key. And once you
Yeah.
get over that and you look for other ways to make a little money, now that we can't sell CDs anymore or sell
Yeah.
records the way we did in the old days, then you figure out other ways to make money and you keep making art one way or the other. I've been making art my whole life. I can't worry too much about whether you're going to buy it, you know? I
Well,
mean,
no,
potters
that's
don't
great.
worry about
Which?
potters or painters. I mean, painters don't make any money. I mean, until they're dead. We
Yeah,
are
that's
artists
true.
just like a painter's an artist. And so, the recording industry is only 150 years old or something, like they invented recording.
Mhm.
So, you've always had to have patrons of the arts, people that support art, God bless them. I have cousins that, you know, have been successful, and they'll give me money to help me go make a record. I mean, because I
Yeah,
spend a lot of money making records, because I
yeah,
make records that compete with Emmylou Harris and Rodney Crowell and whoever else is in the Americana field. It has to look that good, and it has to sound that good. So I hire the best. And
yeah.
it's cost me almost all my retirement money, you know?
Unfortunate, but
So that's
yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah, but no, that's great though that we've kind of cleared that up, because I think there's an awful lot of like almost like kind of black magic and kind of smoke and mirrors and all this. Oh, is it this way? Is it that way? You hear all these different stories of bands firing their publicist or firing their manager or doing this and doing that and doing the other, and all of it just getting jumbled up into one big mishmash, and no one really knows which way is up as far as all that is concerned. I certainly didn't, and still don't for the most part. But I'm glad that I've gotten a little bit of clarity on that, and hopefully I've cleared that up for some aspiring singer songwriters or artists out there, that know the difference between writers' rights and publishers' rights and all that kind of jazz. If I've said that right. But
You
so
said it.
fast forward then.
Mhm.
I said that right. Fantastic. I'm learning. Every day is a school day, Brooksie. So you fast forward then a little bit, that kind of you done your whole bit with Kid Creole and the Coconuts. Tell us about them.
Okay, Kid Creole, August Darnell was in a band originally called, let's see, what it was Tommy and Stony Browder, and they were the Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah band. And he went to
Helpful.
school with me, Kid Creole, and I went to Hofstra, and that's where I met him. And my friend Julia McBrown, who ended up being the house engineer at Chapel, um, August Darnell, or Kid Creole, as they call him.
Mm.
And he wanted to make a record. And so we made it, actually, the first record, we made most of the tracks at night at Chapel, after hours. That was where the original record was made. And it was because I was working there, got my friend to be the in house engineer. Nobody was there at night. We would come in and make the record. And he was working, like I said, he had already had a deal with Dr. Buzzard's original Savannah band with his brother, Stony Browder. And that was, he was getting some fame. And then Tommy Mottola signed Kid Creole. Tommy Mottola was Mariah Carey's husband, as a matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
eventually. But he was working with Hall and Oates. And so all of that, those people were all in and out. And so they asked, I was there, and they needed a backup singer. And, just to be with the coconut part, the background parts. And there
Yeah.
were two other women, and I was only 5 feet tall, so I had to stand on a phone book because I was with these two other tall black women. And it was real multi cultural, very diverse. The music was big. There was horn section. Sugar coated Andy Hernandez did the horn sections. He was incredible. He still plays out amazing. They call him Cody Mundi, and you can look him up.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And so we did the first album up there, and then Peter Bliss, who's another arranger, producer, record store owner, or actually he owned a recording studio. Um, he ended up working with them, and they got signed with Island Records. And so
Oh
the
yeah.
first album was actually on Island. And I'm actually on the cover, and you can see me in the back corner. I mean, I have dark hair, but I am in but I was not a dancer. And they hired three girls who were Swedish, or, that blonde, tall dancers to be the Coconuts. So I didn't go out on the tour with them. And that, plus there was just, I was not going to do that. That wasn't something that was going to happen. So that's how I ended up doing the first album. And it was very exciting. And, we were singing background on, me and my friend Annie were singing background on records and stuff, and just trying to make a living. We
Yeah.
were just mostly making a living, trying to eat, and, make records and stuff. And you never knew what was going to happen. We didn't know who was going to be famous. I mean, even Hall and Oates at that time, we'd see them at my friend Sarah's house. They'd come over, and everybody just hung out. And that was the way it was. And I worked at a ballet shop on Gay Street in the Village with Doria Reagan, who ended up marrying Ronnie Reagan, President Ronald Reagan's son, Ronnie, who's big NBC whatever guy. And
Yeah.
Doria and I worked for her, and she ran a little shop where we sold ballet shoes to the Joffrey, and got to meet Bette Midler and stuff. So that was fun, great. It was a great time back then. And But
Cool.
that was my 20s. It was an interesting time. So
Yeah, that certainly sounds it. That's one of the most surreal sentences I've ever heard. That you worked with Ronald Reagan's son's wife and met Bette Midler while selling her ballet shoes on Gay Street in the village. Like
yeah,
everything
she
in
was
there.
my we had lingerie. We sold lingerie also, so, she was buying lingerie for the Harlettes. That was her backup her backup singers were called the Harlettes at the time, and they were actually playing at Gertie's. They were so Bette Midler is a genius. I mean, she was an
Uh,
incredible musician, fun to watch, and I was also playing with Robbie Condor, who ended up marrying Carole King's daughter, and
uh,
his son, now Dylan Condor, was in Jesus Christ Superstar, that one that they did on TV. They're all
right.
musicians, just incredible players. And Robbie toured with Carol and James on that tour that Carol and King and James Taylor did a while back. So I mean, I got to play with everybody knew everybody. This wasn't weird. I mean, just everybody knew everybody. It was fun.
That's excellent. That's class. I love that. I absolutely love that. That's wonderful. So let's fast forward then a little bit because I know that you were saying all through your 20s it was all this whimsical and wonderful and just mental crack that you were having, but then you sort of left the industry and you became a children's musician. So what did that entail? What is a children's musician?
Well, what happened was, I had little guys. I got married to my drummer,
Mhm.
and we had 2 kids. And I would be playing the guitar, and my son would come up underneath, and we'd be playing.
Yeah.
And I was they were going into preschool, so I was helping out in a Montessori school, and I was uh I just come up with songs. I can't help it. I write songs no matter what. So I was helping them learn to speak French and learn to speak Spanish. So I wrote a little song, that went, "Hello, how are you? We like to make new friends." Just a little,
That's lovely.
just write little songs for the little guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And I ended up finding another woman friend who was working in preschools around the area in the DC area. And she had a company called Glee Mania, where she booked children's performances in schools. So that's what I did was I put together a children's show. I still do it. Actually, I'll be at Gray Fox Bluegrass Festival in July this year. It's my 10th year there on the family stage. And I do a show called Rainbow Family where we sing in all different languages and different colors. And it's lots of fun. So I just wrote a bunch of songs for little guys. One of my biggest hits is called Pineapple Upside Down Cake. It's called My Favorite Food. And for 5-year-olds, I mean, amongst the
Lovely.
5-year-olds. And I have a CD out or an album. It's on Spotify and stuff called
Yeah.
Pineapples, Butterflies, and Dinosaurs. So that's what I did.
Amazing. That's so, so good. And then so what did a children's concert entail?
Well, it depends on the age of the kids. You have to really work through it. I worked with little teeny ones, like 3-year-olds,
Mm,
4-year-olds, and 5-year-olds. So
okay.
one thing is it can't be long. It has to be half hour is about all they can take. You
And
have
even
to
at that,
work
that's
with
pushing it.
yeah, that's pushing it. 20 minutes. Oftentimes I would do 20-minute shows in the classroom. I would go into Montessori classrooms and not just, but a lot of preschools. I did a lot of preschool shows. And what I
Mm,
would do is if you do interactive work with them, with little songs they might know, like the Itsy Bitsy Spider or something like that. But I also wrote songs, or I would sing like in Korean. I collected preschool songs from around the world because in Montessori, there'll be kids from all different countries coming in, so
mm,
I figured if a 3-year-old could learn it, I could learn it. So what I did was I asked the moms because at the Montessori School of McLean, where I worked for many years, um, we had diplomats, kids from all over the world. So I said, teach me a Russian song that's simple that a 3-year-old can learn. So there's one that goes, which is may there always be sunshine, may there always be blue skies. And so I would do it in English and in Russian, and then I learned one in Korean, and I learned one in Chinese, and I learned one in couple in Spanish, French.
mm.
So I collected them, and so that's the kind of stuff I would do for the little guys. And you're interactive; you have them up, jumping and moving, and all that sort of stuff. And mainly, you just work with them at their level. That's what's important when you're working with small children is
Yeah.
recognizing that they love a 3-year-old loves a song that just goes Pie, pie, pumpkin pie, put it in a pie pan. They like the repetition of the P's. They're
Yeah.
listening for different things that an older person's listening for. So learning how to work with little guys, and Montessori is wonderful for that. They're very good. But I did
Yeah.
it in preschools around all over the DC area, and still, and I still love working with little ones. It's a lot of fun. So I did that while the kids were little, and so about 15 years, I that was how I made money. My ex-husband did well, thank God. So I was the tax write-off. I would maybe make $10,000 a year
Yeah. Yeah.
performing in schools around, and that would be my income. And we would write it off because we had a recording studio in the house. We
Yeah.
built our own recording studio. So
Of
yeah,
course, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a right handy way to make money as a musician during the week, because
yeah,
you know yourself, most musicians, it on Monday to Thursday. Monday to Thursday, we're kind of, unless you do something like what I do and you teach, or well, nowadays, I suppose you could podcast, you could YouTube, but if you don't do anything like that and you just want to play, you're all but obsolete until Friday, Saturday night, Sunday night. Do you know what I mean? So doing that sort of stuff during the week, extra 10 grand a year, that's all right. That's not bad
well,
at all.
yeah, it was. And also, I had stopped drinking. I told you that earlier. I had
Yeah.
gotten sober. And I'd also quit smoking when I had my son. He's 32 now. So 32 years ago, I quit smoking. So all of a sudden, I had some more range in my voice, because that
Mm.
happens when you quit. And
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you that a 5-year old doesn't care if you're on pitch. They just want you to be honest and happy and do the
Yeah.
right thing. So I was able, I give all the little guys credit for me getting my voice getting better, because my voice is
Yeah.
better than it was when I was younger, because they let me practice. They let me try the higher notes, because they don't care. They like it so long as you're honest and direct and give them good feedback. They don't care. So I
Yeah.
was able to develop a vocal techniques and vocal experiences that helped me, because doing a show at 9 in the morning is very different than doing a show at nine
Oh,
at
yeah.
night.
Big time.
Very
I remember.
different.
Yeah.
So right. So I did 9 o'clock morning shows for a number of years. And in fact, when I got back in the music business as an elder person, Jamie Lee Curtis right now is saying that, do matinees, people. You too, do
I saw
matinees.
that.
We're old. She's all over
Yeah.
that, because it's hard to stay up late for me now. So I try to do shows that are earlier if I can, and be done by 10 o'clock, if at all possible. I don't do bars anymore. I used to play bars, when
Mm.
I was, I played and I have 4 sets. Now I will do 4 sets, but only at a winery in the afternoon. And even then,
Yeah.
I usually have somebody with me and take a lot of breaks, because that's a
Yeah.
long time to play. So I
Yeah.
do wineries. I perform at those. Do that too. So
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. No, you're right. 4 sets is we tend to do 2 sets here in this part of the world, 2 or 3 sets, sort of over 3 hours. But yeah, 4 sets is that is
it's too
grueling.
much. I mean, I won't do it. I don't play bars anymore anyway. I mean, I will occasionally do a concert at a bar, that kind of thing, but I don't. I do concerts, house concerts mostly. That's a few festivals. That's the kind of stuff. When I'm playing out, I'll do a festival, a house concert, um, and a winery. Those are the three places that I mostly play. So
Winery sounds like a lovely place to play. We don't have those here. We don't have the weather for wine.
yeah, well, wineries are lovely because they are drinking, but it's not like a brewery. It's not like Matt Malloy's,
Malloy,
which is.
yeah, in
Except that
Westport.
at Matt Malloy's, they listen. I loved it there. I played there, and it was so fun. And everybody listened. They just loved the music.
Yeah.
It was really fun. Americans aren't quite as polite, so but at the winery, it's what I do there is that I recognize that I am background music. Basically, they're not there to hear me. They're there to do something else. So that's where I do all the songs that I never get to play anywhere else. I
Mhm.
do covers. I don't play a lot of original material. I just have fun playing stuff from the 60s and 70s that I know that, from for me that, I know all
Yeah.
those songs by heart. So people haven't heard them in a long time, and I'll do like It's a Heartache, or I'll do a Rolling Stone song in a bluegrass style, or things like that. And
Yeah.
people enjoy it. But
Yeah.
I don't have to put on a performance in the same way that I do when it's a concert.
Yeah, you're not hoarse by the end of it.
No.
Absolutely
Mhm.
clutching at your chest, being like, "Oh God, I'm knackered." Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I love those gigs. I love those gigs where like you say, you can just go and you can just enjoy it. You can just have fun. You can play what you want. Nobody cares. Nobody
Mhm.
cares what you're playing. They're there to drink the wine and just be all whiny, and you're
Yeah.
there kind of to just to have fun, and it's wonderful. So you came out of well, you're still doing the children. You're still doing like the children's musician thing. You should look up Miss Rachel. If you've not heard of Miss Rachel, my daughter, she's going to be 1 at the end of the month, and she cannot get enough of Miss Rachel. Miss Rachel's on YouTube, and she plays ukulele, and she just sings bedtime songs and teaches you how to brush your teeth and all that kind of stuff. And it's lovely. You should start a YouTube channel. Call yourself Miss Brooksie, and there you go. That can be the next step in your career. But
Well,
anyways,
actually, no, and I'm gonna tell you why.
okay.
Because I did that with my kids, and that was
Uh-huh.
when I did my children's thing, and
Yeah.
you can't nurse and rock at the same time, and I'm gonna tell you that now that I'm 70 years old, I wanna rock. I don't wanna be with the children anymore, and I know that that sounds cold, but the truth
Ah,
is I love doing a little bit of it, and I do have an album out, Pineapples, Butterflies, and Dinosaurs that kids
yeah,
can
yeah.
listen to, but when I got divorced, that was when I wanted to go back in the music business and do grown-up music with grown-up songs for grown-up people. And that's what I do today is my folk music is it's multi-generational. Obviously, I don't swear a lot. I'm not real good at it. I'm real good at it in talking, but I'm not good
Yeah.
at it on songwriting. I think it's lazy. It's to
Yeah.
me, it's lazy songwriting. It can work if
Yeah.
it can work. I'm okay with people, swearing, but it's not, I think it would sound funny in a song that I wrote. I don't know. I
Yeah.
just haven't been able to do it.
Yeah.
So,
You're not writing songs for like NWA or Slayer or anything like that. Like,
no,
so you don't
I'm
you don't
not.
you
I'm
don't need
not.
this.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
So speaking of songwriting, what's the story with your new album? Tell us about that.
okay, this most recent album, which is called Stops Time,
Yep.
it came out 2021, November 2021. And I wrote most of the songs, a number of the songs over COVID. I was up in
Ooh.
the mountains. My cousin has a mountain house and it's isolated. And that's where we stayed. We were little old ladies kind of hiding out, staying out of our harm's way. And we made it through safely, thank God.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anything else to do. So I was writing and I ended up writing a song for my friend, which I mentioned earlier, David Goodman, who's a photographer. And
Yeah.
and the line that came to me was the man with the camera stops time. And it
That's
was a
lovely.
and I just thought it was really kind of a cool lyric. And then I
Mm.
started to think about how he has photographs of us when we were in college, in black and white. We were all in the theater and the theater. And so I ended up doing a video using old photos from that period just in black and white, and that was the video. And the song is, I took the photographs of all my friends, cherish memories, none of our sins, we all look beautiful even though we
Yeah.
didn't know it then. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, is when you're young you think you're ugly, and when you look back you're like, oh my god, I was so good looking. You don't realize how youth is just beautiful. So
Yeah.
I did this album and I got a Bruce Brown. He played for Charlie Daniels for 30 years. You know who
Yeah. Yeah.
Charlie Daniels is,
I
right?
do. Ever went down to
Yeah.
Georgia?
Yeah. And Bruce Brown, and is a friend of my engineer and Gary Gordon, who I work with. And he played the lead guitars and the mandolins and stuff on some of the extra instrumentation on the record, which was very cool. Also Ross Sermons, he's a New Zealand artist, and
All right.
we sent him the tracks and he played bass for me. And yeah, it's very very cool. And I go out to Gary's studio in right, it's outside of Nashville. It's not in Nashville. His son is Ian Gordon, who's a big Nashville producer, owns Track 8, um, does a lot of film and television, and also
All right.
but anyway, Gary and his wife Roberta were the Gordons. They did a lot of folk. So they know how to cut a folk record. They know how to mix a folk record. They know how to make the voice sound warm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Folk, you can't have effects on your vocals. They have to, and even if you miss a note, he's got a guy who can fix it so you can't tell. Whereas,
Yeah.
if you're doing pop, they want the effect on the vocal, but I want no effect. So I made this record and I did a cover. I did two covers. I did Early Morning Rain by Gordon Lightfoot, he was one of the reasons I started writing in the first place because I love Gordon. And then
Yeah.
I did I'm a Believer by Neil Diamond, which is that
All right.
one, was in Shrek, but also
Yeah.
it was, yeah, the Monkees did it a million years ago. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did a sweet, sweet cover of it with me playing very sweet. Because if you think about the song, and this is talking songwriting, but I'm a believer, it goes, what then I saw your face now, I'm a believer. It's almost a gospel song. And you don't even think about it,
No,
but
no, I
it's
never would have done.
yeah, very interesting. So those are all of my new album. And then I wrote a song called Thinking About Fame because that it just came to me. I was thinking about it and what it really means,
Yeah.
you know, and why is it was important to me when I was young. I wanted fame. I wanted to be on the cover of People magazine. Back then we had magazines. And I wanted to be now, what is that? But,
Yeah.
and then the chorus I wrote was maybe I wasn't hungry enough. Maybe I'm misunderstood. Maybe I wasn't
Mm,
greedy enough. Maybe I'm not that good. It's hard to know
mm,
now. You
mm.
don't know why. I mean, listen to the record. You're going to like it.
I
And
will.
everybody listen to the record. It's on Spotify.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah. We'll make sure that that's linked in the description. Now that sounds
awesome.
all lovely. Just when you were saying about I'm a Believer there, I never knew that was by Neil Diamond. That just
Yeah,
shows like that just shows like I'm 30. I was born in 1992. That was way before even the Monkeys one was way before my time. But yeah,
exactly. Well, and
I
y'all know
personally
it
knew
from
that from Shrek.
Shrek. Y'all know
Yeah,
it from
I
Shrek.
knew it
So,
from Shrek.
yeah,
I was like
yeah.
9 when Shrek came out. Of course I knew it from Shrek.
Exactly, exactly. But it's an old song and it's beautiful and it can be done. And that's the other thing about songwriting, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I have a catalog and I have a number of songs and I'm an ASCAP writer, by the way, American Society of Composers, Authors and Publishers. Some people are BMI, some people are CSEC. There's different
Mhm.
organizations to collect royalties. I do get royalties, not a lot, because streaming, I'm not a big famous artist, but I do get some. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of how all that works. But anyway,
Yeah,
that's a little
very
bit of
good.
what I've done, what I've been doing.
Very good. And I know then you're coming over this way in this actually soon enough, next month, I believe, with Nina Gibson. What's the crack there?
Yeah, what's going on is Nina Gibson and I have been teaching a course in intuition for over 25 years. We taught
Mm-hmm.
at the Chautauqua Institute for 10 years, and we offer an opportunity for you to look at, explore, and develop your intuitive side. We call it the flip side of intellect. It's part of your intellect, but it's the more grounded, centered, looking inward, listening to your guidance kind of a way. And it's the reason that I believe that I have had 3 top 10 albums is I was able to follow my intuition, get out of my own way, get the help I needed to have my albums be heard and be able to really listen to other people and take advice and do as they asked me to do rather than fight and scratch and go, I don't want to. I did what I was asked to do and it worked out real well for me. So
Yeah.
Nina and I we're calling it our Intuitive Hearts Tour, and it's only a few shows. We'll be at the Brighton Fringe Festival. We'll be there the 26th doing a workshop called Intuition and Music. And then on the 27th, and this is at the Unitarian Church, we're going to
Uh-huh.
be doing a concert. Then we go up to the Vinyl Cafe in York, which will be fun. It's a coffee house. That'll be fun. Then
Lovely.
up to Sheffield, which is June. Hold on. I have it written down. June 2nd in York, and then June 3rd in Sheffield, and then up to Glasgow on the 4th for a concert. And then we'll be
Very
heading
good.
home. So it'll be a
Very good.
short little tour, but we want to introduce our Intuitive Hearts Tour, which is here's our music. Nina does more spiritual music, sort of new age kind of spiritual stuff, and I do my folk work. But we want to tell everyone that you can find, your spiritual self, you can find your intuitive heart, and you can have a wonderful life and do interesting things as an elder and continue to live life and be excited and be fabulous.
Oh, that is absolutely fabulous to hear. I love that. So, folks, mark your calendars. That is, if you're listening to this on the day that it comes out, which is the 5th of May, 2023, mark your calendars. Brooksie is coming over this side of the world, which is I'm in Scotland, so over that end of the world. She's coming here in 3 weeks' time. Get your calendars out, stick a little mark in it, and make sure you get along to see Brooksie at some point if you can. Brooks, it sounds like you've got plenty to keep you busy. And even at this stage in your life, there's no stopping you. There's no slowing you down at all. You're ready to rock or you want to rock, as Dee Snyder would say.
Well, I'm also working on a screenplay. We just sold a movie, my little company called Wildcard Development, about the life of Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass, and a Canadian company is going to be putting that in production. It looks like in September. But the
Ooh,
new film that I'm working on, which is I'm doing a screenplay with my best friend Catherine Lisk in New York. She's was in Harry Potter in the San Francisco cast. She and I are working on a superhero script, which is going to be very
ooh.
exciting. So look forward to doing some of that. I just can't sit still. That's the
And
deal.
why would you? When you've got all this talent oozing out of you, why would you sit still? It's selfish of you to keep it all to yourself. The rest of us need to have some of it. So yeah, no, that's brilliant. Well, maybe we'll check in with you in a year's time and see how those films are coming along. You kept that very very quiet in your bio that you'd sold a film.
Well, it's a fairly recent thing. I've been working on it for 3 years, but my the work that I do in film is behind the scenes. It's more
Uh-huh.
executive producer sort of stuff. So I try not to put that out there too much. But it was very exciting to actually be part of a film that is actually going to get made. So these things take time and they take a lot of
Yeah,
work. I'm also a music supervisor on a documentary called Constructing Whiteness, which is with a guy named Art Jones, who just did a documentary on Muhammad Ali. So there's a lot
nice.
of projects coming up. But mostly, I just want to play music and talk to people like you, and I will help others who need help, especially women. If you're looking for
Yeah.
support, help, please call. I'm always available. And, that's one of my favorite jobs is to be a consultant and help individuals realize their dreams.
Excellent stuff. Well, on that point, before we jump into a quick fire round, why don't you tell people where they can actually find you and where they can get in touch with you?
Okay, well, I'm brooksiewells.com, and I'm the only Brooksie Wells in America. So if you Google me, you actually get me, which is kind of cool.
That
Um,
is very cool.
I know. And I'm on Spotify and I'm on Instagram, again, Brooksy Wells. And Facebook is where I hang out because I'm older. Old people hang out on Facebook.
That's
And
right.
so I have a group called Everybody Knows Brooksy. So if you want to come and join us, we'll be taking you guys along on our tour with us, doing live feed and all that sort of stuff. So join us. And we look forward to meeting more and more of you guys over there because Nina is a huge fan of Ireland, as am I. I've played there before. Thank you, David D. Moore and Matt Malloys, for having me in the past. And I'll be
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Ireland hopefully next year. So exciting.
Excellent. Well, you may let me know you may let me know when you're going to be in Ireland, and I'm going to see if I can jump on over to see you in Ireland. We'll get an old sing song and Matt Malloy's over in Westport. Cool. Well, tell you what, let's jump into a quick fire round, and we'll let you get back to your ever growing to do list of film writing, screenplays, albums, intuition, all that kind of great stuff. So, as I always say, the quick fire round is it's kind of like icebreakers, but at the end. So, yeah, we'll start off with this one. What is your favorite animal?
Dog.
Dog. Yep, good solid answer. Everyone loves a dog. If you don't like dogs, there's something wrong with you. Go get yourself seen to. Um, what is your favorite memory from childhood?
Oh, I lived in a mansion as a kid.
Of
And
course you did.
of course I did.
Fantastic.
The Unitarian Church was an old estate, and we had a theater company on the property. And I woke up in sixth grade when I moved there, and it was like waking up in fairyland. It was this beautiful estate, and I go outside, and a woman goes, "Come here." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "We're making glass scales for the dragon." I'm like, "What?" And she said they were doing a production of Turandot, which apparently has a dragon in it, and they were making glass scales for the dragon. And I thought I had woken up in fairyland. And sure enough, I was able to be a part of the theater company as a kid for many years, and that's one of the reasons I went into theater. So that's a wonderful memory. The Mount Vernon Unitarian Universalist Church in Alexandria, Virginia. Look it up. It's a beautiful estate, and I lived there as a child.
Very good. Very, very. I think I stayed in Alexandria. Is Alexandria very close to DC?
It is. It is.
Yeah, I did stay in Alexandria when I was over that way. Yeah, very, very good. Nice part of the world. That is one of the most surreal things I've ever heard, that you woke up in a mansion to make scales for a dragon. That's fantastic. That's the best sentence I've ever said in my life. Um, let's do a couple more here. Right. So if you could live in any era, bearing in mind now that you've been through the 60s and 70s and 80s and all that good stuff, but if you could live in any era, which one would you choose?
Absolutely right now.
Oh, right now, really?
Absolutely right now, because with what's happening with artificial intelligence, and I'm thinking about Pete Rust right at the moment,
No, man, Pete
you
Rust
oh,
from
you young
Fly.
folks have always had it, and I believe that the evolutionary process is I believe that the evolutionary process is moving faster and faster, and things are changing so quickly. And
Yeah.
I also, with modern medicine, I'm getting this opportunity to have a late life and be healthy, which would not be true in an earlier age. So I wouldn't even be here. So I can't think of any other time I'd rather be in.
Oh, well, that's lovely. That's lovely. The last guy I asked, he said the 90s, and I was like, why? Everything was wet and dull. and like, yeah, great stuff. No, that's lovely. That's really nice to know that you've been through the 60s and 70s and 80s and all these like golden eras that people always say were just better. But like you're saying it's not. So it's nice to know that I'm kind of in the
You
right
are.
time as well.
You are. You're at the very beginning of something very, very dramatic evolving with our planet. So it's
Yeah.
scary and it's hard, and my heart goes out to you. But I am very envious of the many years ahead that you have.
Oh, well, thanks very much. Well, I think thanks. Yeah, no, that is a lovely note. I tell you what, let's end it on a not so lovely note. And this is a question I've been asking the past few guests because I just find it hilarious. What celebrity would you like to fight? Any
Cher.
celebrity you can who? Cher. Why Cher?
Well, Cher is amazing. I mean, and she doesn't change. I mean, she's the same. She looks the
No,
same way she did 50, 60 years ago. She's unbelievable, and it would just give me an opportunity to put my hands on her. I think she's amazing.
that's great.
You should
That's
tell
great.
her I
Good stuff.
said that.
No, no, don't worry. No, nobody listens to this. It's all good. I tell you what, if by some miracle Cher is listening to this, Cher, give us a shout. I'll get you on the podcast, and Brooksie's called you out. Brooksie's called you out. So come on, have your say, and we'll make it happen. We'll absolutely make it happen. Listen, Brooksy, you're an absolute delight to talk to. Thank you so much for coming on today, and best of luck with everything coming up. And I'll hopefully catch up with you in the future. All right.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. It was a wonderful time, and you're adorable. I've had a great time.